I have to be honest, this game, at least at the beginning, felt like the sequel of Limbo, for a lot of reasons, not only one. And another thing, what the hell was that ending? Was it really necessary? Today we're talking about Inside. Before we get into the game itself, let me tell you a little bit about the people who made it. Playdead is a small indie studio based in Copenhagen, Denmark. They were founded in 2006 by Arndt Jensen and Dino Patti, and for a long time they were basically a two-person operation with a very big dream. The first game, Limbo, came out in 2010 and completely blindsided the gaming world. Nobody expected a small Danish studio to drop something that atmospheric, that dark, and that smart. It won a ton of awards and put indie games on the map in a way that very few titles had done before. And then in 2016, they came back with Inside, just a game that dropped and immediately made everyone lose their minds. Right now, Playdead is working on a third project, which they have been teasing for years with very little information. If their track record means anything, it is probably going to be incredible, and it is probably going to confuse everyone who plays it. One thing you should know about this studio is that they do not explain themselves. They never have. You get what you get, and you figure it out yourself. For some people that is frustrating. For others, and I count myself in this group, it is exactly what makes their games so special. But at some point, playing Inside frustrated me too. Okay, so Inside, what even is it? Inside is a puzzle platformer. You play as a small boy in a red hoodie, and from the very first second, something is deeply wrong. You're running through a dark forest, there are men with flashlights hunting you, and nobody tells you why. You're just thrown in, and you run. The game is a side-scroller, meaning you move left to right, and the whole thing is set in this incredibly bleak, grey dystopian world. Think factory farms, flooded laboratories, mind-controlled humans walking in lines, and underwater sections that will make your stomach drop. The art direction is stunning in the most unsettling way possible. Everything feels heavy and cold and wrong, and you cannot stop playing because you need to know what is going on. The puzzles are, I would say, clever, and just when you think you have seen everything the game has to offer, it throws something at you that makes you put the controller down for a second and just process what you witnessed. Inside is roughly 3 to 4 hours long, depending on how you play. Some people see that as a negative point. Now, here is the thing I have to talk about, because it is basically the whole reason I wanted to make this video. Is Inside a sequel to Limbo? Technically, no. Playdead has never said it is. There is no official connection between the two games. But here is the thing. If you have played Limbo, Inside is going to feel deeply familiar the moment you start it. And I mean that in both good and slightly annoying ways. The atmosphere is almost identical at first. You are a small, silent boy in a dangerous world that wants to kill you. The color palette is drained and grey. There is no music for long stretches. Just ambient sound that makes you feel uneasy. The tone, the pacing, the way the camera follows you without ever showing you too much. It all feels like stepping back into Limbo, but with a higher budget and more ambition. The core mechanics are also very similar. You run, you jump, you push things, you solve environmental puzzles. If you played Limbo recently, the beginning of Inside might make you raise an eyebrow, because some of the early puzzles feel like things you have done before. The logic is familiar. You will not struggle much in the first half of the game if Limbo is still fresh in your memory. And honestly, that is a small criticism. Not a big one, but a real one. There's a period at the start where Inside feels less like its own thing and more like a very polished continuation of what Limbo already did. If you are coming in completely fresh, with no Limbo experience, you're going to love every second of it. But if you played Limbo last month and immediately jumped into Inside, the beginning might feel just slightly too familiar. Okay, about the ending. I'm going to try not to spoil it too much, but I do need to address it because it is genuinely one of the most polarizing endings in indie game history. People either love it or they find it completely baffling, and both reactions are completely valid. What I will say is this: the last section of Inside does something you will absolutely not see coming. It reframes everything you thought the game was about. The tone shifts, the mechanics shift, and you end up in a situation that is equal parts horrifying and absurd, which is a combination very few games manage to pull off. But here is my honest opinion. A tiny bit more context would not have hurt. Just a little. I'm not asking for a 12-minute cutscene or a narrator explaining the themes. But there is a moment near the very end where I genuinely thought, okay, was all of that entirely necessary? Could they have given me just one more piece to the puzzle without breaking what makes the game so mysterious? That said, I understand why they did not. Playdead's whole philosophy is ambiguity. They want you to live with questions. They want you to go online, read theories, argue with strangers in comment sections, or maybe make a video about it. So, back to the original question. Is Inside a sequel to Limbo? Inside feels less like a sequel and more like what Limbo would have been if Playdead had made it second. It takes everything that made Limbo great and it pushes all of it further. If you played Limbo and loved it, you will love Inside too, with the caveat that the beginning might feel familiar. If you have never played Limbo, Inside might actually be the better starting point, because it does everything Limbo does plus more. If you've made it this far, I'm guessing you know exactly what I mean when I say some games just hit different. Let me know in the comments what's your thought of Inside, and especially what you think the ending actually means, because I'm convinced nobody has fully figured it out yet. And like always, thanks for watching.